this tutorial we will have a look on shooting. If I shoot 3 times to this enemy or this cube, it will destroy as you seen. Okay, and we can shoot at anything like that. Of course, I'm gonna have a link of this sprite in the description. You can go ahead and check them out. So without furthering delay, let's dive into today's topic, shooting. Okay, so let's get into this. So let's drag the weapon. So I have over here, so I'm gonna select this one and let's drag it to scene view or hierarchy. Okay, and if to focus on it, so it's little more down. So what I want to do, let's make this weapon is a child of main camera. Okay, so wherever the main camera goes, this weapon gonna go also with it. So let's select this weapon and just place it top of this main camera. Now this weapon is a child of our main camera. Okay, so select the weapon, go to inspector, right click on the transform and reset it. Okay, as you can see now, if to focus on it, and we are able to see our weapon. So let's drag this weapon right over here, something like this. Okay, and I'm gonna drag it a little bit down. So let's rotate this weapon in the y-axis. Okay, so the this weapon should pointing in the forward direction. Okay, the main camera is looking in that direction. So select the weapon, go over to transform rotation and play around with y-axis. As you can see, indeed our weapon is rotating. Okay, and let's drag it over here. Let's drag it a little bit up and something like, I guess it's pretty fine. Okay, as you can see, um, let's drag a little bit down and just play around. You're gonna get hang of it. Okay, I'm gonna drag it a little bit down and let's go to transform rotation and let's make a little bit up. Okay, we'll play around with z-axis a little bit. Now it's fine. Let's hit this play button. So wherever main camera goes or in that direction, this weapon also gonna point. Okay, let me show that to you. As you can see, wherever we go, this weapon is going with it, because this weapon is a child of our main camera and it's looking in the direction or in wherever main camera is pointing in that direction. Okay, oh, so that's the catch. You need to make a child this weapon to the main camera. Okay, so let's create a shoot script. Okay, player shoot script, something like that, to check if we shoot. Okay, so let's go to assets. Okay, assets, right click, then create and C# script. Name the script something like player shoot and select this player game object and select that script and drag it to add component section. Or what else you can do, click on add component, then new script, name the script what you want, and then create and add. Click on create and add and you are good to go. And basically you need to attach the script. Okay, and let's double click that to open up in Visual Studio. So we have start function, so let's remove this start function, we don't need it for now. Instead let's create a shoot function. Okay, and what we want to do, we want to shoot okay, we want to shoot from this main camera in the forward direction. And if so basically we want to create a ray from this main camera position and it will go to forward in the direction main camera is looking. As you can see, straight forward, and we will specify some range, and if that ray collide with something, we want to damage it. Okay, if it's enemy, then we want to damage it, and if it's something else, we don't want to damage that. Okay, so that is the catch. So let's go to script one more time, and over here what we will do, let's create a shoot function. Okay, so for function we have to type void, let's call it shoot and make first bracket and some curly brackets. So what we want to do inside this shoot function, okay, basically we want to shoot out a ray. Okay, so for shooting out we have to use this. Okay, ray cast hit. Okay, ray cast hit, let's call this one to hit. Okay, and we can store basically we created a variable raycast hit, and we can store the info into this hit variable. Okay, we can store anything, we can the game object name, tag, rigid body, anything we can. Okay, we will store into this hit variable. Okay, hit variable, it's just like a container. We can just store whole game object and we can extract anything we can. Okay, and the next thing we have to create up the ray. Okay, to create up the ray, what we need, basically we have to use this physics. Okay, physics dot raycast. Okay, raycast, and over here firstly it will take the position from where you want to create the ray. So we want to create the ray at the point of this main camera position. Basically from main camera we want to create the ray, so we need a reference of our main camera. So let's go to top of our class, let's make a public transform means position. Okay, let's call this one FPS cam, basically main camera. Okay, FPS cam, let's close that up with semicolon, and let's pass over here FPS cam dot position, and the second argument it will take the direction. Okay, which direction we want to shoot out the ray. As you can see, if we go to Unity, we want to shoot out in forward direction. The main camera is looking in that direction, so we have to type right over here FPS cam. Okay, FPS cam dot forward, and the third argument we will pass out, we will pass this hit. Okay, out hit, basically what out hit, what it means, we can extra in what the ray is colliding with anything. So suppose let's say ground or enemy game object, and we can store enemy game object information into this hit variable. So that's why we type out hit, we just storing whatever we collided with, we storing that game object information into this hit. Okay, and the third argument you can pass the range or you can just leave it, but we want a range. Okay, some range we want to shoot out the ray, it will be some amount or distance you can call. So let's go to you can type over here something like 100f, 50f, it's totally up to you how much one. So let's create a variable, so we don't need to come to this script and change this value over again and again and again. Okay, so let's go to top of our class, let's make a public public float. Okay, and let's call this one shoot range. Okay, shoot range, and by default let's give it something like 100f or 100 unit, it's totally up to you how much you want. Okay, and let's pass as a fourth argument our this shoot range. So in this shoot range the ray will be created. Okay, and close that off with semicolon. So this function right over here, physics2d.raycast, this will shoot, this will create a ray from the main camera, and it will go to forward direction, and it will and we storing whatever we hit with, we storing into this hit parameter, and it will about some shoot range. Okay, shoot range, and if this ray really colliding with any game object, so this function right over here gonna return as a true value. If the ray is not colliding with anything, or it's colliding with nothing, basically the ray is not colliding with anything like that, so this function will give us a false value. So let's store whatever we get, let's store into a variable. Whatever result we get, let's store into a variable. So that will be a bool, which we know that can be a true or false. Let's call it hit info. Okay, a hit info, let's set equal to this. Okay, hit info, or what you can do, let's go to top of our class. Instead of doing, because I want to access this parameter in this update function as well, so I'm gonna go to top of my class and I'm gonna make a private bool as the name hit info. Okay, and hit info, and close that off with semicolon, and I'm gonna set this hit info equal to this. So this hit info right over here, it can be true or false depending upon the ray is really colliding with any game object or not. Okay, so now we're storing into this hit info parameter. Okay, and what we want to do now, let's go to up over here. So when we press down space key, or you can gather some information. Oh, okay, something like if we click left mouse button, I'm gonna check, you can check with any key, you, it's totally up to you. Okay, so I'm gonna check for my left mouse button. So let's type if, so I'm gonna get the input, so input dot get mouse button down. Okay, get mouse button down, and in brackets we can pass 0. 0 basically means the left mouse button, and 1 right over here means the right mouse button. So I'm gonna check for the left one and make some curly brackets. So what we want to do, when I try to click left mouse button, I want to call this shoot function. Okay, shoot function. And what shoot function is doing, firstly we creating a raycast hit variable to store info whatever the ray hit with, and then we creating the ray from our main camera with this direction and storing and with this shoot range. And then we whatever we result get, if the ray is really colliding with any game object, then this hit info will be true, else this hit info will be false if the ray is not colliding with anything like that. If colliding, then this hit info will be true. So let's go over here, let's call this shoot function. Okay, and we know shoot function what it's doing. So what we want, so if we press down space key, okay, space key, sorry, if we press down left mouse button, I want to see the name of the game object the ray collided with. Okay, to print out, so let's type debug.log. Okay, and we will go to this hit parameter. Okay, this out hit parameter. We will not gonna do it right over here, instead we will do over here. Firstly we will check if hit info is true or not. Okay, if hit info is true or not, and make some curly brackets. So if hit info is true, basically if hit info is true, basically the ray is colliding with a game object. Okay, so this hit info will be true, and over here we checking if hit info is true, basically means the ray is really colliding with any game object. So what we want to print out the name of the game object the ray collided with. Okay, so I'm gonna print out the name, so debug.log. Okay, debug.log. So we can go to this hit parameter. Okay, and we can extract info anything we can, this raycast hit variable. So that's why we created. We will go to this hit. Okay, hit, then we will access the game object, access the transform of that game object. Then we will print out the name. Okay, dot name, and close that off with semicolon. And why are we calling, when we press click left mouse button, then we calling this shoot function. And shoot function firstly creating array from our main camera, and we storing the result, if the, and then we checking if the ray is really colliding with not. If we colliding, then we just printing out the name of the game object the ray collided with. Okay, by going to this hit, then transform, then dot name. Basically we going to that game object, transform the name, then accessing the name of the game object. Okay, so control S on your keyboard to save your code. Now let's move to Unity, and make sure control S. Let's go to Unity and select the console in the bottom. Let's hit this play button in the top. Oh, of course we need to drag the reference FPS game right over here. As you can see in player shoot script, we can able to see FPS game says none. So what we need to select this main camera, and let's drag it down out there. Now we have a reference of our main camera. Let's hit this play button one more time and select the console in the bottom, and let's see what's really happening. Okay, happening. So if we shoot at nothing, we can not see any message, but when we shoot in the ground, we can see that the name of the game object, which is ground, getting popped up every time we click the left mouse button. Okay, so instead of printing out message, we want to damage. Okay, for testing purposes, I'm gonna create a enemy game object. Okay, something like that. So I will go to hierarchy, right click, then go to 3D object, then cube, and I'm gonna call this cubes. I'm gonna drag it a little bit down, and I will call this one enemy. Okay, enemy, and make sure you added up box collider. If it's not, so it's already added up a box collider. So I guess, and we want to create a script for enemy shoot. But before that, we want to know where we shooting at. As you can see, we don't have anything that that we can shoot at. Okay, basically we need a direction or a point, something like basically we need to make the crosshair so we can check where we shooting at. Okay, to do so you need to go to hierarchy, right click, then go to UI, then select this canvas. Okay, and if to focus on the canvas, and go over to inspector, scroll down and go over to canvas scaler, select constant pixel size to scale with screen size, and choose in the X 1920 and in the Y 1080. Okay, and let's right click on this canvas. Okay, right click on this canvas, then go to UI, then select this image. Okay, I'm gonna make the image darker, something like this. Okay, and I'm gonna call this image to cross here, I guess, cross here. And let's go to image component, and I'm gonna choose knob. Okay, I'm gonna shrink down the knob a little bit. So let's go to rect transform. In the scale, I'm gonna do it something like zero point 0.2 and 0.2 in the Y. I guess 0.2, 0.4 I guess would be fine. So let's do 0.4, 0.4 in the X and Y. And if it's not centered, what you need to go to rect transform and click right over here, hold down on and select the center, so it will be always in the center. Okay, so I'm gonna select this enemy game object and F to focus on it, and let's hit this play button. We should able to see that this crosshair will just gonna uh, give us the point where we shooting at, something like this ground and this sky, as you can see. So this is a pretty cool thing, so I hope you get the idea. And what I want to do now, so let's select this enemy game object or this cube, and let's create a script. So click on this add component, new script, name the script what you want, something like enemy. So I have already created, so I'm gonna select this enemy game object. Let's select that enemy script. Okay, and drag it to add component section. Let's double click that to open up in Visual Studio. And what we want, so let's remove these two namespaces in the top. Firstly, we need to give some health to our enemy game object before we destroy. Okay, so let's let's make a public int. Let's call this one max health. Okay, max health. I'll by default I'm gonna give 3 amount of health and close that off with semicolon. Let's remove this start function, we don't need it. Instead we will create a function. Okay, and make sure you making it public, because I want to call this function from another class where player is shooting. Okay, for function we have to type void. Let's call this one take damage. Okay, take damage, make first bracket and some curly brackets. So what we want to do inside this function, really apologize for the background noises. Okay, so what we want to do inside take damage function, we want to subtract from this max health minus equal 1 unit. Okay, so let's call this take damage function for the first time. So max health, as you can see, is 3. Okay, so 3 minus 1 will be 2, and if we call the second time, so 2 minus 1 will be 1, and if we call the third time, so 3 minus 1 minus 1 will be 0. So the max health will gonna hit 0. Okay, let's suppose the max health is already 0. So, and if we call this function, so 0 minus 1 will be minus 1, so it will go to a negative value. So before we subtract, we will check, okay, if max health is already 0 or not. So if max health is lesser than or equal to 0, so if that is the case, so make some curly brackets. So we will type return, and we know after return, whatever line of code you write, it will not execute, so it will stop subtracting right there. But when the max health of our enemy game object reaches 0, we need to destroy the enemy game object right away. We don't want to delay like something like that. So we will check, we will move over to this update function, and we know update function runs every single frame, so that's why we're gonna check right over there, and we will check if max health, okay, max health is already lesser than or equal to 0. If that is the case, so make some curly brackets. So what we want, enemy loses all of his health, so we need to destroy our enemy game object right now. Okay, so for destroying, we have to use this destroy function, and it will take the game object we want to destroy. So we will pass this dot game object, basically it's referencing itself. Okay, and close that up with semicolon. Control S to save your code. Now let's move over to this player shoot script where player is shooting. As you can see, we just printing out the name of the game object. So instead of printing out name of the game object, we want to damage our enemy if it's enemy. Okay, so we will check, okay, we will check if hit info. Okay, if hit info, then transform, sorry, hit info dot trans no, sorry, not hit info, actually this is hit. Okay, if hit dot transform dot name, okay, dot name, it's equals to enemy, enemy, and make some curly brackets. So what we doing, firstly firstly checking if the ray colliding with any game object, and then secondly we checking whatever ray hit with, ray gonna hit with that ground, that enemy game object. So over here we checking if hit info dot transform dot name, if it's equals to enemy, basically the ray collided with the game object, if the game collided with the name, and if the name of the game object ray collided with enemy, as you can see, if hit dot transform dot name is equals to enemy, so basically in that moment enemy should take damage. So what we need to call that take damage function. What take damage function is doing, it's just subtracting from our enemy 1 unit of health every single time. So if we just shoot 3 times to enemy game object, enemy will lose all of his health, and when it lose all of his health, it's gonna destroy itself. Okay, so firstly we checking if the ray colliding with the game object name of the game object is enemy. As you can see, if hit dot transform dot name, if it's equals to enemy, basically whatever ray hit with, and if that game object has name or a name enemy, then what we want, so let's call that function. So we will go to hit, then transform. Okay, transform transform, sorry, transform, then get component. We will get the component, and we are looking the component is enemy, and in enemy script we made that enemy take damage function. Okay, in enemy script, so we will pass right over here enemy, and make first bracket, and then over there we will call that take damage function. Okay, so let's call it take damage, and make first bracket and close that up with semicolon, control S to save your code. Now let's move to Unity. So firstly we checking if the ray collided with any game object or not, and secondly we checking whatever we collided with, if that game object has name enemy, and we do know we assigned this enemy game object as a enemy name, as you can see. Then we just calling that take damage function this from this enemy game object. Okay, so let me show that you. Let's hit this play button in the top, and we should able to see the name of the name of sorry, not name, this enemy will lose when we just add 3 times we shoot. So let's suppose with 3 times we shoot 1, 2 and 3. As you can see, the enemy game object get destroyed. So I hope you get the idea. And if we just collide with any other game object, as you can see, it's not destroying, we just only check for enemy. So I hope you get the basics idea of this. Okay, and lastly, thanks for watching this video. Goodbye.